right. Well, we are here with another Why Wednesday. Happy Wednesday to you, Mia.
Happy Wednesday to you, Raison.
Huge thank you to Culture Insurance, Flores Financial for their very generous support of this conversation. I believe that it is a value add, and it's interesting because when you were giving me topic ideas, I was kind of balking at this one. I went, oh my gosh, payroll compliance. That sounds kind of boring, to be honest with you. But then, but then offline, we just had this very lively conversation. So I'm excited
Yeah.
about that. And I think the key
Mm,
word here for people listening is one word, and
yeah.
that is interconnectedness. And I didn't realize how interconnected payroll was when it comes to compliance. So can you talk a little bit about that? When people think about payroll, they just think, okay, well, doesn't it just
Mhm.
mean I need to calculate hours and then pay people accordingly?
Yeah. Well, yes and no. So in 2025, payroll is definitely not just about paying employees. And payroll money, I'm sure it's very, very important to all of us, to employees. Your check isn't right. Then that's when you hear claims and or everything that arises. You have to get the paycheck right. And it also matters a lot to businesses. It's why we continuously work. Numbers definitely don't lie. And we want to have a method to all of those madness. It's about navigating a constantly shifting maze of tax rules, benefits compliance. That's all part of payroll. Reporting mandates. No, so of course, again, right? It's not just about paying employees or getting a paycheck right. And sometimes you wonder, like tax rules, benefits compliance, reporting mandates. What's that? Some of our listeners will be hearing right now. ACA audits. Ooh, what are not? What are those? Like we come up with all of these ACA, IRS, and all these acronyms that are happening right now, and retirement plan updates. Here in California, we have something that's also called Cal Savers, which is a state retirement plan, right? And then multi-state labor laws. Okay, not only here in California, if you also have businesses in other states, there's also laws that you'll have to abide when it comes to payroll, and even wage transparency regulations. So, one small error definitely could mean fines, penalties, payback audits, legal headaches, PAGA lawsuits, class action lawsuits, IRS notices with penalties and fines, so all of that can be such a headache, and hence the reason why you have to know the importance of payroll. It's not just plugging in numbers, making sure that you're paying them the hours that they're working, because there's more to that.
Payroll, not just about plugging in numbers. I learn well through examples and through stories. Do you have an example of an individual that had failed to comply around payroll?
hmm Well, yes, a lot.
Yeah,
Because I
that's kind of
mean,
your
no one's
job. Yeah.
perfect, nothing's perfect, right? I mean, now that we live in a very automated world, we're talking about AI, everything is now integrated and easy, like less human error and things like that. But we still have to make sure that you are actually still verifying it and still confirming it and not relying on like integration in itself. So one small error like that, because we tend to like, it's fully integrated, everything is good, and we don't have to like look into it any further. We don't have to do any more audits and things of that nature. So one small error like that, missing a number or like not doing your regular audits, is you can pay the price for that. And going back to your question in regards to an experience, I would have to say when it comes to ACA audits, right? Like for an FTE, full-time equivalent employee count, as businesses, as your businesses grow, yeah, we were talking about this offline. One experience that comes to mind, or one story that comes to mind, is that we have there's a client of ours, and kind of like grew their business. Of course, it's like a different entity, EIN number. They think that, okay, you know what? It's not something that we need to comply with when it comes to with ACA rules, which is 50 FTE count. You have to be offering health insurance. One of their first entity was just having, let's say, 40 employees, and then they grew their entity to another location that has a different EIN number, and now that location had, let's say, 30. Oh, it's still below the 50 AFT count. But if you and an ACA is based on common ownership, based on the ownership of 100%. So with that said, Now 40 plus the 30 is more than the 50 FTE count. But take note, 50 FTE count is like one full-time employee, and then two, we makes one full-time equivalent, and then two part-time employees makes one full-time equivalent. So navigating through that, I'm sure, is like you need a subject matter expert to really know how that's being calculated. Now, what happened was, just one employee goes to the exchange and it triggers it. You didn't do your ACA. It was not. No one was being offered health insurance. It's not being recorded through payroll, and that's also part of payroll, because once payroll, you have to do that filing through payroll with ACA, and that they received a notice. And it was a notice that was, hey, you did not offer health insurance for your employees. And it cost them like almost, 100 to 200,000 in fines and penalties. And on top of that, if you're late in responding, those are interests as well. And eventually, if you're still not responding and you think that you're still not at fault and you're not seeking, professionals' advice, or like look into it further, that not only is it interest and penalties that are involved in there, now they eventually will levy your account. So that's something that you'll have to also be that's now you don't have any choice at that point, right? Because on top of that, your payroll was incorrect, your health insurance, you didn't have health insurance in place, so that was incorrect. ACA was not filed. Employees was not given health insurance. So things of that all in general, you definitely need subject matter experts to kind of like look into, and it's a lot of work and a lot of administration. So when we came in, we had to go back 2000, 21, 22, 23, and it takes time to kind of, but if they see good efforts in actually having that done, and someone who's actually looking into it on what to look out for and why, you're facing less of a risk. So moving forward, that's something that can be tracked now moving forward, instead of like having to wait 2 to 3 years, because that experience with that client that we basically helped take over and do their ACA audits. It was back 3, 4 years ago, so now we had to do 4 years worth of audit for them to ensure that they're up to date on all of those filings. So yeah, and they grew fast. Sometimes you get so busy, right? And that's the thing. You get so busy, you grow so fast. These are items that you don't really think about as well. So
A
yeah,
helpful example, a real world example. And I'm
yeah,
looking forward to our next conversation as we're talking more about really around the compliance in 2025. And so excited to continue that conversation with you. And Mia, thank you so much for sharing your time. I will see you in the next one.
of course. Thank you, Raizan. All right, bye.
Bye.